Welcome to the Write, Publish, Market podcast. If you're a business owner thinking a book would be a great marketing asset for your business, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already committed, even better. I'm your host, Jodi Brandon, book publishing strategist and partner for business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, and 20-plus year veteran of the book publishing industry. On the Write, Publish, Market podcast, in addition to learning from me and other industry experts, you'll hear from other business owners about their experiences as we explore all facets of writing, publishing, and marketing a book that will help your business grow in ways you might not even be dreaming of yet. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back, business owners. Today we are talking about book introductions. This is such an important topic that is sometimes very overwhelming for authors of all types, but especially those of us who are not professional authors. And it feels very pressure focused because we know how important, as readers, a book introduction is. Many reading and buying decisions are made based on a book's table of contents and introduction. If somebody's going to read a piece of your book to determine whether or not they're going to buy it, it's often the introduction. So because of that, we feel extra pressure to get it right. And I'm hoping that if we walk through sort of the job of a book introduction, and then I have, what I think is a fantastic pro tip for anyone writing a book, but especially business owners writing a book, because it helps alleviate some of the pressure. So I'm going to give you that at the end. But let's walk through what the job of a book introduction really is. Because if you understand that, it's going to make writing yours a heck of a lot easier. So this is sort of the formula for what you need to include in your book introduction. Who the book is for. So you can either state this very specifically, very explicitly, or not. There are lots of book introductions that say, who this book is for, as well as who this book is not for. You can spell it out that way, but you need to make sure, whether you spell it out that way or not, the reader needs to recognize themselves in your language. They need to understand that you are able to fix their problem. So you need to be clear, however you say it, explicitly or not. The reader needs to recognize themselves and their problem in the way you've written that introduction. So who the book is for is probably the most important piece here. Next, what this book will do for the reader. So this is sort of where you tell them what you're going to tell them piece. That adage, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. This is the tell them what you're going to tell them piece. So you can break this down, section by section, chapter by chapter, or, that's obviously going to make for a longer introduction. So it depends on the style of the book that you're writing, whether you think that works for you, or you can just sort of share the promise / transformation that what they're going to learn and why it's important. And again, they need to recognize that problem and transformation. They need to be able to picture themselves, the before and after. And what you're doing with this piece of the introduction is you're getting buy-in, right? You're getting readers interested. You're getting them invested. You're making them want to hear what you're going to teach them, the transformation you're going to provide for them. Another piece that's important here is why you're the person to write this book, why you're the guide for them to get from this particular point A to point B, to make this particular transformation, to provide this particular before and after. This is the part that a lot of us don't like. This is the piece that a lot of us really struggle with because it feels a little salesy. It feels a little braggy. It feels, like uncomfortable. It's important. You want to share, maybe it's your origin story here. Maybe you want to include something about the number of people you've helped with this kind of problem. This is where you want to make yourself seem like a real person to them. You humanize yourself here because people buy from people they like. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And this is where you can start building that know, like, trust factor for your book. And that's important because if you're a business owner or a leader or a CEO writing a book, you know already that the money is not in the book. The money is in the opportunities that this book is going to create for you. Those opportunities are helped along by your know, like, trust factor with readers who become buyers. So this is your chance to really shine there and sort of start building that know, like, trust factor. Hey there, business owner, an aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. This doesn't have to be the biggest piece of the introduction. Don't fret. But you do want to explain, especially if your topic is one where there are lots of other existing books, courses, resources available, how this is different. And a lot of times it's you and maybe your signature process that are the differentiation there. So it's important that you make that clear to readers. And then you want to end with an invitation to turn the page, whether that's literally or figuratively. You need to make them interested enough to want to know what's next. And then you guide them, you invite them to turn the page, to keep going in the book, to keep, to see what's next, to learn how they're going to get to that transformation. So you want to tease the solution somewhere in here. Maybe it's your framework. Maybe it's something else. You're essentially saying, I'm going to talk you step by step through to the other side, but I have the answer to your problem. I have the answer to your problem, or I am the answer to your problem. And you make clear that you're the guide to get them from point A to point B, from the before to the after, to guide them through that transformation. I've helped XYZ number of people do this. I'm going to take you step by step through my XYZ process. I can talk about this because XYZ. This is where you're sort of connecting the dots for readers in this introduction. Because again, if your introduction is short enough, they'll read the whole thing. They won't just, read a section here or there. Now, you can have sections, you cannot have sections. The logistical rules for a book introduction are, it's sort of anything goes, which I think is another reason why it's intimidating. So look at books that you like. See how those introductions are set up. Are there sections? Are there not? How long are they? How long are they relative to the length of the book? There might be an introduction that you love that's 13, 15 pages long, but the book is also 350 pages long. That makes sense. You're probably not going to have a 15-page introduction in a 150-page book. That's 10% of the book. That's not probably the way it's going to go. So you want to make sure that you're structuring it in a way that makes sense for your book, but that you're also finishing the job. These things that I'm talking about are the job of your book introduction. So you got to make sure that they understand how it's organized, what they're going to learn, and then, transition from that introduction to the body of the work. Turn the page. Let's go. Are you ready? Something like that. So again, overall, the job is to preview the info that's coming in your book, set expectations for the transformation, and explain why you are the best teacher for this particular quote unquote class. So that is the job of the introduction. If you can do those things, you will help book sales, future book opportunities, help people finish the book, and get that buy-in. Again, readers make reading and buying decisions based a lot of times on your table of contents and your introduction. So I promised a pro tip at the end. Write the introduction last. So a lot of people want to start with the introduction and then they get stalled. They stall out, they stop writing, they think, oh my gosh, this is a horrible idea. I knew I couldn't write a book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no rule that says you have to write your book chronologically. There's no rule that says that you have to start with your introduction. And in fact, if you don't start with the introduction, if you write it at the end, that whole piece of, what this book is going to do for readers, the transformation, that piece, and then also the, what's included, they're a lot easier because you've already walked them through that transformation and you've already written that what's included piece. So it's a lot easier to say, this is what I'm going to talk about when you've already talked about it, right? So just taking that pressure off and writing the introduction and a conclusion. Same goes for the conclusion if you are including a conclusion, because those are bookends, right? Introduction and conclusion are bookends to a book. So if you do those at the end, they're typically a lot easier to write. Now, I'm not saying that makes them easy to write. I'm not saying you're not going to, have a bunch of drafts or anything like that. I'm saying that they will typically be easier to write. So I've told you what the job of the introduction is. I've told you why it's important. And I've given you that tip for, to hopefully make it easier. So hopefully this has helped you as you're, thinking about your introduction, whether you are ready to write it right now, or if you're just getting into the book writing process and you want to put this on the shelf for a little while until you're ready for it. I hope that it's very helpful for you. If you have questions, please reach out and let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And until next time, happy introduction writing, my friends. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag WritePublishMarket to spread the love.